The Newcomer, page 203. I'm sorry, Chardonnay, I failed, Lucretia said as they boarded the sliver that would take them to Zantok. Chardonnay had been the only commoner who was abducted. This is not a failure, she chanced to say, given the fact that the flight was monitored. Fedora knew that her death would come. The truth cannot be erased or forgotten. Laconium is gone. There is no proof that it ever existed. Zenith will come to know that what the circle says is true, if not by the simple fact that our males will mature as our females do. Then the rest of the prophecies will come true when the appointed time is here. There will be much bloodshed at that time. Lucretia did not like her statement. I thought that was not going to happen. As Fedora told you, there are many aspects to this plan that are not in our hands. I'm afraid of what the Council will do to you, Lucretia said. Don't be. My duty is over. I will not be taken as Fedora was. Her task was finished. Mine has just begun. I am the newcomer now. The Council of Zantok convened. Chardonnay was absolved of all charges, with the documents and evidence that Joyce provided, stating that Chardonnay was an informant for the Council. Joyce was back in her chamber, soothing her chaotic spirit with the task of knitting, weaving tears of mourning into the design of the blanket. She blamed herself for the aborted attempt to keep everyone safe, and that her final stage of the prophecies was going to have to happen. It had taken her years to devise this plan, train the commoners and matrices, compile the lists of socialites and Queen sympathizers. With the crucifix of Bertha's will came her final sign that time was right. The Council of Zantok knew that there was an informant among them, for how could this disturbance happen without one? But they didn't know who. Each one of the seven suspected the other, everyone that is except for Joyce. Only she was above suspicion, for she had descended from Deborah the Divine, the writer of the Articles of Inception and the author of the Way. She tied off the last roll, finished the blanket, laid it next to her on the bed. Needing to restore her faith, she pushed the digits on the controls of her headboard to release the cabinet in her closet. She went into her closet, pressed on the light, code-locked the door behind her, and took out the book from the cabinet. She turned to this. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out from his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman. The earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Joyce continued reading until she, without a doubt, knew her place in the revolution. Because the niece was banished to the outer regions and kept there, she knew that the prophecy was talking about her. She knew also that she was the sole person who could get her supplies or get her out of there. And because there was no real way to know if they would be safe, she felt that she was failing in her mission. She, Joyce, felt she was the person responsible for all this, and the guilt was overwhelming. She fell to the floor of the closet, buried her face into the carpet in shame and fear, for she felt that she had gone against the prophecies. She felt that she was the false Messiah, the prophet who come to deceive Zenith. Hers was the work of the devil, and not that of God. The devil had her. She couldn't even pray. She placed and locked the book back into the drawer before her heart stopped, and she was taken up to spend time with Judas Iscariot. With the news of Fedora's, Constance, and Joyce's death came the code of 3 from Nicion, stand by. This was not easy for the people to do, for vengeance burned within the circle. They say that all life begins as energy. If this is true, then we have always been and will always be energy. Who is to say, then, that we can't power a light bulb, or a hairdryer, or a car, or a computer, if given the will and the key to do so? Turning into the threads that bind the circle, all commoners and sympathizers assembled within their distaffs on the evening of the Three's death, from the 60,000 at Nicion to the 400,000 of Shinta, to the 10,000 in the cold lands of Gliard, to the 250,000 in New Brunswick, and even to the remnant living in the Droit, all members of the circle convened to mourn their losses of their prayer houses. Their rhythm pulsated into the core of the earth, reverberated out and into heaven. Their outpouring persisted well into the night. Out in the desert, in the land once known as Arizona, there still live a people steadfast in their beliefs. They escaped the corralling of survivors early in their structure, becoming nomadic. They were the Hopatu, the peaceful people. Their spiritual strength and respect of nature enabled them to endure what others could not, a disease that was the destruction of man. Late into the cold February night, the Katsanan, spirit beings, danced, bringing life and rebirth. Amidst the drumming, singing, and stomping of the people, they bestowed their gifts and guardians to the benevolent tribe. The Waraibi village had become silent, for the Powamaya ceremony was over, and the Katsanan were preparing to leave for the night. During the silence, a rumbling was heard, inexplainable, for all drums and rattles had been still for some time. High above the third mesa, one Katsina appeared, whose spiritual function had been forgotten to a time beyond memory. His being descended, floating down into the kiva, bringing a message to the people. His instructions were clear. There was a blessed couple that needed their assistance. Come the morning, the villagers assembled to become nomadic once more, so they may fulfill the demands of the Katsina. They were prepared to leave in order to assist what the Katsina had told them was the spirit of the circle. There was no sorrow as there left. The forgotten Katsina would remain as a garden over their lands until their duty was over and they were home once again.